Hi, this is Kim Guess, and I'm with the Be Well at Work Wellness Program, and I'm going to show you how to use the Walk the World tracker. So first, if you'd rather not watch the whole video, you can check to see if your question has already been answered in the help section. This links to the frequently asked questions, which you can see here, and we'll go over some of these questions in more detail. So first of all, the goal of this program is to encourage physical activity. It's not a competition, so there's no reward for having the most steps out of everybody. Basically, you're rewarded for you and your partner both tracking at least 3 days a week, and if you do so, you'll automatically be entered into the weekly prize drawing. So this spreadsheet is shared between you, your partner, and myself, and I recommend starring it in your Google Drive folder or Google Drive to make it easier to find. If you access your work Google Drive on your phone and/or at home, you can also track activity away from work. So the first step is to add your name and your partner's names here. And now I'm going to walk you through how to use this tracker. So if you have a smartphone made in the last several years, you can probably use it to track steps. If you have an Android phone, you can use Google Fit and Apple Health for iPhones. If you don't have either of those, you can also try an app, or if you have an activity tracker like a Fitbit or a Jawbone, you can use that to track your steps, or a pedometer. So since this is not a competition, don't worry about tracking, the few steps here and there if you don't happen to have your tracker on you. But if that matters to you, then definitely feel free to track every little thing. So some activities are difficult to track steps. That's why we have this activity conversion. So for example, some activities don't require many steps, even though they do take a lot of work, such as weightlifting and kayaking. You're not moving your feet a whole lot with either of those. Also, it may not be possible to carry or wear any kind of activity tracker during other activities, such as swimming, or martial arts where you have to wear a uniform. So we picked some of the most common activities. If you don't see yours on the list, you can look it up here where it says source, and I'll show you how to do this later as I give examples of various scenarios. So let's get started. So let's say I'm partner number 1, so I put my name here. So we'll start with an easy example on Monday. So on Monday, I tracked my steps using a smartphone app, or again, you can use an activity tracker or pedometer. So on this day, I got 8,000 steps. So I'm simply going to add it here under steps, and it's going to show up here for my total for the day. And if that's what I did, I don't necessarily need to add anything here, so just skip that. So it'll show up here in your daily total. It will also show up down here in your weekly total, and that'll add up throughout the week. And it will also show up down here in your program total. Okay, so on Tuesday, let's say I'm going to track an activity where I can't use my tracker. So I'll use the example of swimming. Can't take my phone in the pool. So I choose the activity here from the drop-down list, and I enter the amount of time I spent swimming. So let's say I did half an hour. It's going to automatically convert 30 minutes, multiply it by the step equivalent here, and gives me my total here. So you'll see that the type of swimming that's listed is freestyle. But let's say I did a combination of backstroke, freestyle, and butterfly. It doesn't necessarily matter because the actual step equivalent will vary between individuals, how fast you're going, how hard you're working. So those are kind of small details. I would just do the best you can and remember that this is not a competition, so those exact numbers don't necessarily make or break the program. So the most important thing, again, is that you track something at least 3 days a week, you and your partner both, and that will automatically enter you into the weekly prize drawing. If you do even more, then that's even better, but we wanted to give you a little leeway in case you miss a few days here and there. Okay, so for the next example, we're going to use Wednesday. And I'm going to say that I tracked 5,000 steps that day using my smartphone because I walked to BART that day. But let's say I also did another activity where I didn't really track my steps, and that was weightlifting for 30 minutes. So it's going to give me the step conversion of 2010. It's going to add it to the amount that I tracked on my smartphone and give me the total of 7,010 here. So at this point, I've tracked the minimum number of days to be entered into the weekly prize drawing, assuming my partner has done the same. But let's say that I'm going to also track on Thursday. But on Thursday, I did 2 activities that I need to convert to steps, but you can see there's only one option here. So there is kind of a way around that I'm going to show you. So first, you're going to enter your first activity, and let's say that I biked to work at a moderate pace, and round trip took me 40 minutes. So that gives me 6,800 steps. So for the second activity, I'm going to temporarily use a box to calculate the other activity, which let's say is stretching. So I stretch for 20 minutes, and I find out that the step equivalent is only 15 per minute, so I get 300. So I get that number there. So if I want to, I can add that in. Since it's not a lot of steps, I can just forget it if I want. But let's say I do want to add it. So I'm just going to throw it in here and then remove this. Oops. So you can remove it by clicking select one and deleting the minutes. You won't be able to edit this column of step equivalents because there's a formula there, and if you edit that, it can throw everything off. So I have 300 plus 68, I get the 71. But let's say I also happen to track my steps throughout the day. I can add it here as well. So if I got 2,000 steps, I would add 2,000 to the 300 to get 2,300. Now that reflects in my total, the 300 from stretching, 2,000 from walking, 68 from biking, and I get my total here of 9,100. Okay, then let's say Friday, I'm just completely busy and I skip it. It's not a big deal. And I'm busy because I was stressed out preparing for a salsa dancing festival on Saturday. So you'll see salsa dancing is not listed on the list of activities here. However, if there's an activity that you can't find on this list, then we can just look up the equivalent. So let's say I was dancing for 3 hours wearing a fancy costume and I just couldn't wear any type of tracker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up salsa dancing here. There's 109 steps per minute. And I'm just going to calculate it manually. So 3 hours times 60 minutes is 180 minutes times 109 steps per minute. I get 19,620. So I'm going to add that here under steps because I cannot calculate it here since salsa dancing is not an activity. So I could just leave it at that. That's a whole lot of step equivalents. But if I did have my phone on me when I was walking around after my salsa dancing competition, let's say I got 2,000 steps, we could just add those in here and it will be reflected there. So let's say Sunday again was straightforward. I got 8,000 steps and I'm not converting any activity. This will show me my weekly total for the week. I only skipped Friday. If I want, I can estimate it, but if you do skip it, it's not a huge deal. You still did, quite a bit this week. And it'll show your program total here, and when you start tracking again the next week, it will show in your daily total, your weekly total, and then that will get added up for the program total. So that's pretty much all the scenarios that I can think of right now. If you have any other questions or concerns, you can email me at kguest@berkeley.edu. Thank you.